Welcome, everybody, to Empowering Pastors and Leaders. I'm glad you're here. I love having all of the interns here. Can you give all the interns a hand clap this morning? Today's lesson is going to be one on the breaking point. And if you've been a leader for any period of time, one of the things you'll realize real quickly is that you're going to come to a place and a time in your level of leadership where you'd like to walk away. And that is very real. I don't care how powerful you are. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how large your company is. I don't care how big your church is. It really doesn't, that's not the issue. The issue is that everyone's going to come to a place, a crossroads in their life of whether or not they're going to continue forward or leave. They're going to either stop the leadership process or they're going to continue. And everybody is going to come to that process. Everybody. Most expected conflict to rise and did. 56% of clashed over changes they proposed. 54% say they experienced a significant personal attack. Yet nearly half, 48%, say their training didn't prepare them to handle the people side of the ministry and or business. 40% say they left the pastorate because of a change in calling. They also cite such issues as church conflict, 25%, burnout, 19%, personal finance, 12%, and family issues, 12%. All of these statistics are really powerful because what it's showing is that somebody was once a leader, now they are not. Somebody once started, they didn't finish. We can go through all the numbers, and the numbers are real. The numbers are valid. The amount of people that are no longer in the ministry, the amount of people that are no longer in a business. In fact, the statistics are 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs who start their business fail within the first 18 months. So the issue is very clear, and that is that we all have to come to a conclusion when we start something, whether or not we're going to finish it or not. One of the things with internships and Bible school students that I talk to on a consistent basis, and one thing I actually talk to the Bible school students straight up. I would talk to them right face to face, and that is, if you start it, you finish it. Say that with me. If I start it, I finish it. I push this big with my family. This is big for my kids. My kids were not allowed to start something unless they finished it. I don't care if they liked it or didn't like it. Pastor Chad was great at baseball. Problem was, he didn't like baseball. He was a first baseman, great hitter. He's ambidextrous. And I remember him looking at his coach, I believe it was Mike Donovan, saying, it's halfway through the game. And he says, hey, why don't you give somebody else an opportunity? I'm just going to go cheer him on in the clubhouse. And that's exactly what he did. Why? Because he knew he couldn't quit. Corinne started a sport. She didn't like it. Oh, well, you started it. You'll finish it. We have a real problem in today's society with people starting but not finishing. Well, I don't like it. I don't care if you don't like it. Finish what you start. Turn to someone and say, you got to finish what you start. If you're going to be a leader, you must finish what you start. I'll say it again. If you're going to be a leader, you must finish what you start. Every time you quit, the next time becomes easier. And then all of a sudden, guess what's happening in your life? You're a quitter for the rest of your life. You're never going to do much the rest of your life. You're always going to start and stop, start and stop, start and stop. Listen, you can never complete what you don't complete. You got to make a decision in your heart. What is your breaking point? And everybody has a breaking point. I've come to the breaking point in this church multiple times where it would be much easier to leave. When the first time I was offered $100,000 when I was making $30,000. The first time I was offered a church of $2,500. The first time I was offered full-time on the road, making probably triple what I could ever make here, I had to make a choice. Start, finish. And I made a decision in my life that if I was going to start something, I was going to finish something. God told us that my wife and I are lifers here. That means we're not leaving here. Our roles might change at times, but I'm not leaving here. Would it be easier to move to another state? Absolutely. Would it be easier to take a larger church with usually double the pay what I make here? Absolutely. But it's not an option because you can't buy me. You can't not only buy me, you can't unbuy me. You got to make a decision in your heart that you are a person that is going to complete everything you start. There's a lot of things I've started that I don't like. It's a lot of things in ministry, and whether you realize it or not, I just need to educate you real quick. The ministry, if you're going to build God's house, is not just ministry, it's business. Last year, we did $2.4 million here between 3 campuses. $2.4 million is not a little. That's a lot. You got to be a good business person. And I remember times when all of a sudden they would come and tell me, well, we're 8,000 negative. It's much easier to say, we're out of here. You have to make a choice, whether it's ministry or business, whether it's marriage, church, come on, college, internship. You got to make a choice in your life that you are not going to be a person that walks away for no reason. Now, there are times to walk away. A time to walk away from a church is if there's moral failure. Time to walk away from a church is if there's vision change where you're no longer going in the same direction. But you'll find that we've had a lot of people leave here and it had nothing to do with vision, had nothing to do with moral failure, had to do with, well, I just find it, I just want to sleep in on a Sunday morning. You're going to go to hell. You're going to go to hell to get a little nap. Well, who are you to say I'm going to hell? Well, let me tell you something. If you don't finish in the house of God, then why do you think you can start in heaven? If you can't finish what you can see, how will you ever start what you can't see? Oh, that's something to ponder. Because we're in a position where we have a generation, and I need you to hear me now, you young people, is that employers don't have a lot of hope for you. But if you'll be a finisher, you'll never be without a job. Because they can't find workers today. Listen, I don't care where you go right now, there's a sign out front. Now hiring. It's not that there's a lack of jobs. A local major company was just hiring 40 or 50 new jobs. And we're not talking about piddly money. Listen, you can work at McDonald's right now at a local sub shop. It's $15 an hour to make subs. Hello. And they need workers. I mean, they need workers. I just need you to know you have to make a choice. And the choice is going to constantly come before you. Are you going to finish what you've started? And everybody has a breaking point. Everybody has a spot, whether it be in your mind or whether it be in your emotional status. We come to a place in our life of a crossroads. The problem is if you've come to this crossroads before and you've walked away, now you have a monumental opportunity. You know, a lot of people say to me, well, you know, I've given up on God. You know, I came to this spot in my walk with the Lord and I can't move forward. I'm just going to walk away. And they walk away and they go back to work. Do you realize now the devil has marked your crossroad? He's marked your give up spot. Now, every time you start to excel in the things of God, and you get to that spot, you know the enemy's going to put his finger on your bruise. So the only way now to get over that spot is to go through the pain of the bruise and say, I'm not going back. But the moment that your mind or your emotions or the demonic know your breaking point, every time you get there, you now have to make a harder decision than you would have if every time you press through. I see that hand. So the question is if you're ministering to somebody and you know that is their issue, how do you minister that? How do you minister to them through their awareness, but then nothing? Because until a person decides they're not going to break at the breaking point, they're going to bow every time. Remember, a breaking never starts by the break. It starts by the bow. You always bow before you break. But once you start bowing, at some point in time, you're going to get to the breaking point. You can't choose. You got to choose right. And this is the rest of your life. I've had people come in for marriage counseling. Well, you know, we loved each other, but now we don't like each other. And I said, well, what's the problem? Well, you know, and they throw out their reason. I said, that's stupid. I said, work through it. Grow up. I said, you think that that's just them. That's not them. That's every woman. That's every man. So if you're going to break now, you're going to be divorced 10 times. Get through your first one. You got too much invested to walk away from. Amen. We've got to make decisions that, listen now, I am not going to break. In the Bible, we see people that broke. Adam and Eve broke. They were deceived, and Adam made a willful choice to break. Some people break because they make a willful choice to break. Well, you know what? I'm just not going to tolerate this anymore. Listen, I don't care who you are. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to learn how to tolerate. Tolerate stupidity. You're going to tolerate abuse. You're going to have to tolerate Judas kisses. You're going to have to tolerate lies. Now, I'm not even talking Christian. I'm talking, you could be secular and it's the same exact thing. In fact, sometimes secular is even worse because it is absolute dog eat dog. They'll do whatever they got to do to get your job. Say whatever they got to say to make sure that you're down and they're up. Adam and Eve made a willful choice, or Eve was deceived, but Adam made a willful choice. And it broke him. And what did it cost him? Everything. Listen now, this is important. When you break, if you choose to break, it can cost you everything. You might think it's just going to give you relief. The relief is short. Relief is short. Don't be short-sighted. Don't be short-sighted. You want quick relief? Take a vacation. Some people, man, they do drugs, they do alcohol. You know, I just need peace. They go out and get drunk, but then they wake up. You take some drugs, you smoke some weed, and, just need peace. The drug wears off, you got to smoke more. Here's the issue. How much are you going to smoke? How much are you going to drink? And then actually, who is your master? Because you're no longer the leader. You're following the feeling of the drug. Whoa, come on now. This is good. Satan hit his breaking point with pride. Cain had his breaking point called jealousy. Lot's wife, she loved the old more than obeying God for the new. How about the rich young ruler? He was very wealthy. Came to Jesus and said, I follow all the law and the prophets. I do what I'm supposed to do. What can I do to follow you? And Jesus said, sell everything you got and follow me. We know what his breaking point was? Money. Money owned him. He didn't own money. Money's not the root of all evil. It's loving money that's the root of all evil. If money owns you, then you're no longer the leader, you're the follower. Oh, come on now. Judas, money, 30 pieces of silver. Demas, the Bible says Demas broke because he loved the world more than he loved God. I don't know what reasons you have, but someday you're going to have one. You're going to have a good excuse to break. Hear me now. Whenever you use an excuse, you always are breaking. And let me tell you something. We can all justify our excuses. Come on now, can't you? You got good excuses. You got good reasons. Well, you know, I don't know. I think this. We got reasons. We got good excuses. We got great excuses. We can validate in our own head so we can lay our head down at night to sleep. But the fact is, every time you use an excuse to not finish what you've started, you now will always generate a new excuse to escape your next obligation. That is really good. I wish I had this teaching when I was your age. Those who didn't break. Noah. Can you imagine being Noah? Think about this. The world is evil, man. They're partying hard. They're sleeping around. Oh, sounds like America. You know, they're doing all the wild stuff. And all of a sudden God says, I'm done. Oh, by the way, he's going to do that again. But this time it's not going to be destroyed by a flood because there was the promise. But it will be destroyed. Bible says, look at the signs of the time. And you look at the signs of the time, hello, we are like Noah. God said to Noah, he says, I want you to build me an ark. I think it was like 700, 800 feet long, 2 stories high. And I want you to, I'm going to fill it with animals because I'm going to flood the earth. Here's Noah, ready? Flood. What's a flood? See, what people don't realize, up to this point, there had never rained. There had never been rain. There wasn't a lake nearby big enough to hold that boat. And it took him, listen, 120 years to build the boat. What would have happened if you give it up on year 75? What if his breaking point was 119? Oh, by the way, you know what it would have been? You wouldn't be here, neither would I, because we all came from Noah. We always talk about coming from Adam. If Noah hadn't obeyed God and if he had broke, you and I wouldn't be here today. How about Joseph? Sold out by his family, falsely accused, unjustly thrown in jail, forgotten. He never gave up. He never broke and saved the entire nation of Israel. David killed Goliath when even the king was afraid. Job, friends and his wife told him, just die. But he wouldn't give up. And he lived. Not only did he live, he was restored double of everything he lost. How about Nehemiah? Enemies said to him, hey, listen now, you're stupid. What are you doing up there rebuilding Israel? What are you doing that for? Come on down here. We're going to kill you if you don't come. He said, I'm not coming off the wall. He refused to break and restored Jerusalem. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, got filled with the Holy Ghost, preached the first message of the church in Acts chapter 2. 3,000 men got saved. Watch now. He was crucified. That was his death. But he said this, listen now, I can't be crucified the same way my master was. Crucify me upside down. So they took Peter and they crucified him upside down. He dangled by his feet with a 5-inch piece of metal driven through his ankles. Wasn't going to break. How about Jesus? The garden, the cross, every choice, he had to say no. But he saw you, and he saw me, unwilling to break. How about the Wright brothers? Non-biblical. From the first glider, they failed at Kitty Hawk because of unexpected winds to the first 3.5-second flight with a motor that stalled and crashed. Has anybody been on an airplane in the last few years? Only because these men did not give up. How about Lincoln? A pivotal president. Pivotal. The Emancipation Proclamation. You know what's interesting if you've never studied Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln was hated by his own generals. But instead of breaking and yielding to them, you know what he did? Every day he went down to the main general that hated him, sat in his office and shared his vision. He refused to break. He refused to have adversity take him down. He refused to have, listen now, he failed, I'm talking he bankrupted, I think 7 times before he ever became president. He was a man that tried for public office multiple times and didn't win the office. But he wouldn't give up. There was no breaking point. You know his name today only because he didn't break. Watch. Those that break become forgotten. Those that don't break will never be forgotten. Walt Disney experienced the breaking point many times, even the place of eating dog food to survive. He was told multiple times a giant mouse would only scare women and would never work. He was fired by his editor because he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Could you imagine if he had succumbed to his breaking point of other people's perceptions? Lucille Ball, you have no clue who she is. Now go keep going. The Beatles. The Beatles. How many of you know the Beatles? Okay, that's good. Decca Records told them that they had no future. Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan? He was cut from his high school basketball team. Here's what he said, quote unquote. I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I've been entrusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, he was fired from his own company. I remember, I used to have what was called a message pad. Back in the 90s, they had what we call iPhones back in the 90s through Apple called the message pad. You would actually write on the screen and it would turn to text. It did everything. I still have mine. It was really awesome. I remember when they fired him, and I remember when he came back. Here's what he said. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. All those people had a breaking opportunity, but remained focused. What is your breaking point? What is that place in your life? Maybe you've already broken before. And now you have an opportunity. You will come back to that spot again. By the way, you're always going to come back to that spot again. Will you break the next time? That's really your choice. I've had so many things happen to me and my wife in the aspect of leaders. I've had people that I thought were loyal. Very few people ever leave nice. They leave mean, especially staff members. Why is that? Because everyone's got to sleep at night, so they got to villainize somebody. They got to make somebody evil so they feel good. And I've been called every kind of, like I said on Sunday, I even made it to the stall doors. A helpful measure of your capacity for hard things is to know when you reach the moment when you feel you can't take it anymore. You're at only 40%. So when you feel you can't run like another mile, you may have to take a few miles and you may have a few miles left. Or when your life falls apart and you think you can't go on, you likely have a lot more to give. The Marines do that. Armed forces, they actually bring you to your breaking point and push you beyond. Because every time you think you're at your breaking point, well, there's a great book if you haven't read it. It's called Leadership Pain by Samuel Chand. You will only ever lead to the level of pain you can withstand. And you have to make those choices. And the choices aren't usually external. They're internal. Why do you break? What brings you to that place? What is that emotional feeling? What is that, I'm not going to do this anymore thing? I hate this. Who cares? You started it. Finish it. Well, I hate them. Well, they might hate you too. But the point comes to is, if you're going to break every time somebody hates you, you're already broken. Because that means your value is established in somebody else rather than in the one who loves you most. Every one of us, I don't care who you are, young or old, you're coming to these places. And you have to make choices. You must identify your breaking point and move past. Number 3, you must determine that giving up, stepping back, not moving forward is not part of your thinking. It's not a mindset you allow. I do not allow giving up. It is not an option in my personal life. It was not an option in my children's life. It is not an option. Is it an option for you? Is it your option? Well, I'm young. I don't care how young you are. Man, you start breaking young, you'll break the rest of your life. I remember, man, in high school being offered weed, being offered acid in geometry class. Man, I was offered everything you could ever imagine to be offered because when I served God, they hated that I served God. They did everything to try to get me to follow the things of the world. Everything. They worked hard to get me to go drinking. They worked hard to get me to smoke. They worked hard to get me on drugs. They worked hard to get me to their parties. And I just said, nah, I'm not interested. Well, what are you, some religious freak? No, I'm just not interested. You know why? Not because Jesus said anything in the Bible, but my daddy said something to me once that made sense. He said, I want to know what I've done, who I did it with, and if I had fun doing it, and you can't always do it if you're drunk, on drugs, or being stupid. And I just said, no, I'm not doing that. That's stupid. If I got to go get drunk to have fun, I'm more screwed up than I ever thought. If I got to get high to get peace, then I'm really messed. If I got to feel that I got to fit in, listen, I made my own crew. I made my own crew. I didn't follow somebody else's crew. That's what I used to say to my kids. You're a leader or I'll beat it into you. That's exactly what I told them. Because when you become a follower, you have to make a decision. Am I going to follow them there and break? Or am I going to stand for what I know is truth, what God's word says? And I know in your head you're saying, well, that just doesn't make sense. I'm telling you, it makes all the sense in the world because it will affect the rest of your life. It will affect your relationships. It will affect your marriage. It will affect your job. It will affect your eternity. Thomas Edison, when you exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't. Albert Einstein, never give up on what you really want to do. The person with big dreams is more powerful than one with all the facts. Melissa Joy, having a rough morning? Place your hand over your heart, feel it? That's called purpose. You're alive for a reason. Don't give up. Wilma Randolph. I ran and ran and ran every day, and I acquired this sense of determination, this sense of spirit that I would never, never give up, no matter what else happened. Babe Ruth. It's hard to beat a person who never gives up. If you choose to never give up, you will succeed. Never give up. Go over, go under, go around, or go through, but never give up. Got to get that in you. Determine you will learn from each stretching moment that brings you to the brink of breaking. You'll be to that brink many times in your life as a leader. I hope you don't think it's only going to come once. The trials and tribulations that have come in my life, I remember way back in Newfield, back in 1990 when I took that church. There were 7 people in that church. Every one of them could have been my grandparent. We had no building, so we had to meet 7 miles out of town in a church with no air conditioning in the middle of summer in the afternoon after all the mature people ate lunch. I only ever kept one awake. Can you imagine being a young preacher and your whole congregation is 7 people? Your wife is 18 years old. And as you're preaching, you only keep one awake. Then you got to leave there. Where you going? Every moment. Listen now. There is no way that I could do what we do now unless I was brought to the breaking point and move through it. The greater leader you become, the larger your breaking points are. And if you break, the consequences are never you, but the fallout is generations. It's a choice. Sometimes what we believe could be our worst trial, turns out to be exactly what we needed to become wiser and ultimately stronger. We have experienced our share of trials within our company, and we have gained a deep sense of empathy. Despite hard times, we remain open to new possibilities. You got to know that with God on your side, you can't fail unless you break. Make a decision in your life. I am never breaking. And if you do that, you will become successful. You will fulfill your purpose and your destiny. And you don't have to live a life of regret. The greatest enemy of the deathbed is called regret. I wish I had done it differently. I'm not living that way. Do you want to know one of the reasons I went on this 1,000-mile motorcycle trip in 24 hours? Besides crazy? Called the Iron Butt? Because I refuse to get to 75, 80 years old if Jesus tarries and say, man, I wish I had done that at least once. I'm never going to regret. My wife and I, for years, heard these people say, I wish I had, I wish I had, I wish I had. And I heard bikers, motorcyclists say, I wish I had gone cross country at least once in my life. So 8 years ago, my wife and I looked at each other and said, we're going cross country. Because I will never say, I wish I had. I'm not breaking. At times, it would be easier. At times, your mind says you'd feel relief, but your regret would be great. Don't break. Don't quit. Don't step away. Don't give up. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There's nothing impossible with God. You can't fail unless you give up. Don't give up. Questions? Ooh, it's a hot one. You get this now. You don't have to live regret later. Get a steel backbone. Stand up strong. Don't bow, because the moment you start to bow, you'll keep bowing, and then you'll break. I'm not going to bow for nobody. And I've taken a lot of abuse for that. I've had a lot of rumors for that. A lot of lies for that. A lot of haters for that. But guess what? There's only one I'm not going to bow to and break to, and that's the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. I'll obey his word till the day I die. And guess what? If that costs me everything, and it cost me everything, but I am not going to compromise and sell my life out for stupidity. I'm going to cross the finish line and finish strong. Amen? Thank you so much for watching Empowering Pastors and participating today. We'll see you next week. Listen, you all got notes. I wouldn't throw those notes away. I would keep those notes. Ladies, put it on your mirror. Boys, put it wherever you put it. I don't know. But all I know is there's going to come a choice in your life at young and at mature ages when giving up is an option for you. Take this out and read it before you make your choice. Take this out and read it before you make that choice. If you make the right choices, you won't regret it. If you do, some of them you can't fix. Some of them you can't fix. If Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had bowed their knee, it would have been no fix. Thank God, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. There was a fix. But here's the gamble. you never know which one can be fixed and which one can't be fixed. So why play near the line? Finish strong. I'll end with this. I already finished online. I'm finished with you. I always taught my kids this. When you leave a job, they should be able to beg you to stay. It should take two people